online, and
Oh,
they're
wow. Okay, cool.
an elderly woman too,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
just have hit it off, and they talk all the time.
Oh, that's
yeah,
so cool.
Yeah,
yeah. That's lovely.
yeah.
So it's interesting. So my best mate lives in Denver, which I guess where some of the connections come from. He's moved over and he's a pilot. I think he's with United now, and it's funny because a lot of our conversations are, because they're often, they're 16 hours apart. They're a staccato kind of, I'll say something and then you'll get something 10 hours later, and then occasionally I'll see something pop up at 4 a.m.
Back and forth, yeah.
Yeah. So we sort of learned, because he's been there about 6 or 7 years now. So we've sort of learnt to manage and find the times on the weekends, and
That's so cool. That is so neat. Right, here comes everybody. Where are we at? We got 3 more minutes before we're going to get started. Anybody got any funny jokes today?
A bit early. What have we got?
What do you call an angry carrot?
What?
A steamed veggie.
If you see a crime in an Apple store, are you an eyewitness?
That's a good one. I like that one.
I got that one the other day. I thought it was pretty good. Now, I did check. I didn't do the excitement of PowerPoint slides today. We're a panel discussion, hey, so we can chat away and cool.
Yeah, I'll just do the introduction stuff, and then I'll head over to you guys with Doug, and we'll do the panel.
All right, thank you. I did write some notes. It'll be a case of reading them now, but we'll see how we go. No, that'll be good. Some of this stuff's good. I think if you can. I was just thinking about some of the examples over the, it's close to 20 years now, and some of the ones that where you've made mistakes in the past, or whatever the case might be, we've seen the train sort of falling off the tracks.
Yeah. It's happened.
Don't do it again. I've seen this.
Yep. And you see it coming. A lot of times you see it coming.
Just checking, am I coming through clearly for everyone?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. It's working here too. I sort of did my best with the Wi-Fi and downloaded updates and all sorts of stuff, so that's good. Hopefully it'll stay that way for the duration. Yeah. Wonderful.
All right, I'm going to give it 1 more minute, and then we'll kick off. And get time for 1 more joke if anybody's got one.
I think now.
Why can't you give Elsa a helium balloon?
Trying to think of an answer. Oh, I don't know.
Let it go.
Yeah, she'll let it go. That's one of my daughter's favorites.
I was gonna say you must have little ones for
I've
Disney.
got little kids. I'm like, all I can think of are little kids.
Yeah.
It works.
I had one that was a very Australian context. So I know that won't work.
What concert cost 45 cents?
What?
What concert cost 45 cents?
It's something to do with 50 Cent.
50 Cent with Nickelback.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
50 Cent featuring Nickelback.
Yeah.
What did 50 Cent do when he got hungry?
I don't know.
He ate.
He ate?
58, like 5'8".
Oh, okay. All right. Think about it for a second. Good one.
Yeah, it's funny.
All right. Well, we're 10 o'clock straight up. Are you guys ready to get rumbling? All right. So good morning. If anybody experiences any issues, technical issues, we've got Corey on board. Wave Corey. Hi, Corey. There he is. Feel free to contact him. You can email him or chat him or whatever, and he'll help you out if you run into any technical difficulties throughout the webinar. We're going to have a lot of discussion at the end of this. We hope you guys have questions for our panel members today. So make sure to write those down as they talk. But when you talk, make sure to unmute your microphone and then mute it again when you're done. So we hope to get a lot of interaction after the initial panel discussion. So gosh, June 27th. I cannot believe we are looking at July next week, you guys. This is crazy. This year has just flown by for me. To focus in on what our foundation is for the PSCP, we're an agnostic group of change management professionals, and we want to come together and learn from each other, support each other, encourage each other, do all of those cool things. And the bottom line for us, though, is we want to make sure that we're ensuring that everyone impacted by change is successful with that change. And so that's a big oomph, but I think we all can do it a little bit at a time. So our agenda, we've already did a few jokes, and our purpose and welcome. I'm going to next introduce the board real quick. And we have a newcomer, Kaylin is on, and so we're excited to have her on the board of directors as well. We have a few announcements, and then we're going to jump right into the panel discussion. And after that, we'll do some Q&A, just an open forum for anything else, and then we'll close out for the day. So this is the board of directors. We've got a pretty full team, so I'm really excited about that. We've got Elizabeth's on. Hi, Elizabeth. Corey's on. He waved already. There he is. You look so far away from the camera, Corey. You're like way back there. Doug, of course, is on. He's leading today's panel. Thank you, Doug. Is Patricia on? Yes, Patricia's on. Hello, good morning, Patricia. And Kaylin. I saw Kaylin earlier. There she is. Good morning, Kaylin. And we do have one vacancy. So if anybody is interested in joining the board of directors for the PSCP, please let us know. Our production lead opening is open for anybody that wants to take it. We would love to have you aboard. And basically that's just helping us organize all our webinars. You don't have to do all the work though. The other people on the board of directors will help you. And we like to take on a little bit of everything. So we share the load basically. So if you're interested in becoming the production coordination lead, please let us know. Send us an email. Why you're interested in joining the board? Why are you suited for this position? What is your favorite thing about change management? So pretty simple. We just want to hear what your interests are. Get it to us and we will definitely get back to you. Also, this session will be available for a PDU if you need PDUs for PMI. But to get those, you need to make sure you fill out the survey at the end of the webinar today. So a big welcome to Kaylin. I knew I had a slide in here and I wanted to just put a shout out to Kaylin. Thank you so much. She just joined this last month and she's already making changes. And so I'm so excited to have you aboard, Kaylin. Already making improvements, and she asked, can I change things on the website? I'm like, sure, continuous improvement all the time, let's do it. So she's doing great things. So thank you, Kaylin, for joining us. And I love the picture, by the way. We have our PSCP book club. Patricia has spearheaded this effort. We're going to start a book club this next month. And so we're very excited. The book selection that we chose was Switch, How Things Change When Change is Hard by Chip and Dan Heath. I actually have this book in my closet. There you go, Dan. Dan has it already. I have it in my closet too. I should have brought it up for a prop. There you go. Patricia has it. If you haven't already signed up, I think we have like 12 or 13 people signed up for the book club. If you have missed it and you want to be involved, here is, if I can find my chat, paste. There's the URL for the Google form for you guys to fill out. That'll let us know to include you in the book club. So click on that if you want to be involved. And our assignment is go get the book and read the first couple of chapters. And Patricia will be in touch with everybody that signed up for our first session. I'm really like pumped and excited about it, Patricia. I can't wait to do the book club. So Bottom line for everyone here, get involved. We're working on all kinds of things. We've got our webinars, our bi-monthly webinars. We might be trying to tie that into some events. So look for that. It's going to be kind of exciting, I hope, in October. So we might be tying into some other events. If you have ideas for webinars that you want to see, case studies, another panel like we're going to do today on a certain topic, let us know. Workshop ideas that we can do in an hour. And we also want to know if you guys are interested in a virtual conference. Corey, myself, I'm trying to think who else. We just got done delivering the first ever Colorado Innovation Conference. It was a 3-day virtual conference, and it was a lot of work, but I think we could do something for the PSCP that focuses in on change management. So if you guys are interested and would like to help with that, please let us know. Again, bottom line, get involved, take the leap. We're really a fun group. We do fun stuff. We have a group chat that we're always talking to each other on, it seems like. And we just have a lot of fun doing what we do. So if you want to join in, and if you don't want to be on the board, that's fine too. If you want to just present, please present. If you want to put something in the newsletter, let us know. We just want everybody to feel welcome and involved with anything they do. And your voice is very important to all of us. We want to hear you. We want to see what you have to say. We want you to ask questions and just be involved in today's session as well. And with that, y'all, I'm going to hand it over to Doug. And Doug, I'll do the flipping of the next few slides and tell the panel, and then I'll stop sharing.
Okay, that's terrific. Thank you. Can you hear me okay out there? Yeah. Well, good morning, everybody. This is really a thrill to have our panelists, and we'll see. We're hoping Martha Jane can join. She may have had another item that came in this morning, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that when we get ready to get into our panel discussion.
I'm here. Good morning.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
I did have a little technical thing this morning, but here I am.
Yeah, terrific. So I guess what we'll do is to start off with, maybe for each of our panelists, and we're so thankful for and grateful to you for being here today and to share what you know, and we'll go through our 3 questions for our 3 panelists here in a few minutes. But first, maybe if you could take a few moments to introduce yourself and maybe a few items that come to mind in your experience or focus or motivation in the whole realm of the people side of change and change management. So we'll go from the top, and we have Daniel Bartlett, and he's calling in from the wee hours of the morning, or joining from Australia. So Daniel, if you would be willing to introduce yourself a bit, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Just making sure I'm coming through okay. Yep, wonderful. Yeah, as it says, Dan or Daniel Bartlett, either is fine. Work in the Queensland government, so Queensland being a state of Australia, a little bit like Colorado in the US. But here in a personal capacity, having done change management in a public sector context for most of my career. So I guess I haven't really called myself a change manager. It's like a lot of people really falling into it, run operations, projects, etc. across so local governments, that's municipal services such as water, sewage, roads, etc. Tertiary education, so universities, so a lot of business change there, international students, etc. Public health and hospitals, public utilities, water, as I said earlier, but also electricity distribution, and now in corrective services. My favourite focus actually has been the human side, or the human services side. So the change management piece, and I guess for me helps the front line, whether that be health or in the corrections and justice space, to help the people that we look after, but also the broader community. So it really is a human piece for me, and that also extends to talent development with the staff as well. So I'm lucky enough at the moment to be in a management role, which is very exciting. I've just come off quite a large project and back into a operational management role. So I've been able to reconnect with the team, and we're growing that team as well, which is fantastic. So Not sure of the level of people in here in terms of experience, etc. I see around 80 participants, so I thought hopefully some of my comments will sort of bridge divides of oceans, states, experience, countries, all those sorts of things as well. And if I can answer any questions afterwards, please, very, very happy to do that as well.
Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. Leah, are you available to give us a little introduction about you, and then we'll go to Martha J or MJ.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Leah Emmerich. I currently work at CU Anschutz Medical Campus in the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research. In this current role, I'm supporting creating an Office of Continuous Improvement. So requires a lot of culture change in this current space. I formerly was at Denver Health at the Lean Systems Improvement team, so did a lot of continuous improvement support there. I also have worked at the CDPHE at the state level, and I worked in public health at Denver Public Health. So I've been out in the public sector, a lot of those previous roles, you know, where I was being asked to go out and help make change in those areas too. So I think this, you know, theme of change shows up in anyone's career, even in our personal lives. I've more recently, about 2 years ago, started a master's degree that's really focusing on change management and innovation, and have felt like as a continuous improvement lean practitioner, this people side of change, understanding how to weave those pieces together is really critical, especially when you're coming into a space where that culture doesn't exist. You cannot come in and simply focus on the process and not plan in the people management when you're thinking about some of these more strategic changes. So I'm really excited to be part of the conversation with you all today, and I'm sure I will learn from you all as I'm listening too.
Thanks, Leah. Appreciate it. And Martha Jane, glad to have you. Thanks for being the third very important member of our panel from Arizona, and we'd like to learn about you a bit.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Martha Jane Vincent. You see that I go by MJ, so please feel free to use that. You can even find my email address as that these days. People were having a hard time finding me because they didn't know my whole name, which is common. So let's see. I have been with the state for about 11 years in total. 9 of those years were with the Department of Transportation. And I did lots of different things with them, starting off my career doing partnering, working for a lot of employee engagement work, starting an Office of Employee Engagement there prior to continuous improvement coming to the state of Arizona. And then having the department say, hey, have you ever heard of Lean? Nope, but okay, would you like to get a master's level education in it? Okay, or even maybe a PhD. I don't know if I'd go that far, but when the state brought continuous improvement to all the state agencies, I had the great opportunity to be part of that early effort. So seeing change from a perspective of we're changing the culture, we're changing some of our ways of work in a really big, sort of massive way. That was a very interesting experience. And then I actually left the state and I did formal change management in the private sector for 2 years. So I have some, and that was a large software conversion of a finance department of a national company. So that was a really interesting experience for 2 years, big change management project that I can talk about, and bring some of that private sector change management sort of focus into the conversation. And then I joined the governor's office almost, well, a year and a half ago with GTO. And so we serve as sort of consultants, continuous improvement and leadership consultants to all of the state agencies. We help the agencies operationalize or implement the governor's vision, whatever that might be. So we're experiencing quite a change now because some of you may know we had a party change in our governor's office. So of course, even if it's not a party change, it's very common when the governor turns over for all the things to change, right? So we're currently in the process of talking about how is our continuous improvement management system, which is enterprise statewide, How is that changing? Why? What? This is a great opportunity to improve, and then aligning kind of to what the governor wants to achieve. So lots of interesting sort of fresh things that I can talk about, and I'm really pleased to be joining everyone today.
Thanks, MJ. I appreciate it. Well, awesome. We've got our topic, change management uh-ohs, and I guess we can go on to the next slide. And thank you, Michelle. So it's a bit of a, we'll move quickly because we'll have about 30 minutes. I'm looking at, I'm going to run the timer so we can make sure we can leave time at the end for discussion and Q&A and then wrap up on the call. But a month or so, the PSCP community was terrific. They, I think we like a 1-question survey with 5 options versus 5 questions and 5 options. It seemed like it resonated well. We had well over 50 responses, and this graph shows the count. So thanks for Corey to taking, he did a quick and fabulous job of converting our stats from the questions into this bar chart. And the clear winner is a lack of clear communication for change before, during, and after. And some of these other aspects of the 5 areas to try to see where our community was feeling are also important. But we'll keep this in mind in terms of the change management uh-ohs or experiences as we go through our 3 standard questions with each of our panelists. So I think, yeah. So thanks to Patricia, this kind of captures in a cartoon moment how lack of clear communication can feel across a group when you're all in the boat together. And yeah, the poor person there is he found a particular area of concern, and you know, we have a number of people and they've all taken this in somewhat of a different way. So I think this is kind of a humorous visual in terms of how important it is for clear communication in change for the people side, especially. Yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. And so these will be our discussion questions. So our panelists received these ahead of time so they could think about maybe some of their past experiences or current experiences in these 3 areas. So the format for the panelist discussions, and if it's okay, we'll go Daniel, Leah, and MJ, and we'll take each question in order. So we'll take the first question and we'll ask the 3 panelists their experiences, and I'm going to run the timer so we make it to the end and we don't leave anything off the table. So I'll probably ask folks on our responses to think about a minute or 2, and we'll keep it at that. And then if we find we have some balance of time at the end, then we can also use that for some of the Q&As that may come in through the chat. So let's jump into this. Are we ready? So for the first question is, what have you experienced with resistance to change, and did it result in unexpected outcomes? So we'll hit you, Daniel, for the first one and see what your experience has been.
Thank you very much. I'll just put a quick timer on there to keep myself to about a minute or so. Look, I always love to start with a positive, and the experience with resistance to change for me has been around being that person who's had to come in often with no knowledge of the content or the subject, or not being an SME, a subject matter expert in the particular area. So in health, that might be clinicians such as nursing staff, allied health staff, doctors, etc. Where I am now, it's correctional staff, psychologists. Previous worlds, it's been road construction crew, etc. So often it'll be, you know, who are you? What are you here for? And you might be in on a lean project or a continuous improvement project, etc. One of the biggest things I've found is I'm here to listen, I'm here to learn. And over a period of time, I've managed to learn some extraordinary things, not only about the specific area that people are working in or interested in, but also the emotional side and what people are thinking and feeling, and those kind of inherent temperature checks to be able to do it. So I feel quite privileged to have been trusted by our staff and I guess end users of our products and services. And for me, it's a little bit, and I've got a couple of props here to show, let's say we're implementing an IT system, a finance system versus a clinical system. There might be IT systems, but there's different sports as, you've got basketball versus football. So they're two totally different sports, they're two totally different ways of doing things. And I think as a positive unexpected outcome, it's really about getting people on side and looking at that resistance and saying, well, why are we doing this? And if you look at some of the ProSci theories or CODIS theories, whatever the case might be, it's really going down to that, forming those guiding coalitions and looking at the line manager as the most important person. So getting beyond the resources and finding out the real issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. How about you, Leah? What's been some of your experience with resistance to change and results in your world?
Yeah, thank you. And please keep me to the time if I am getting close. I think that, as you all know, that resistance to change is the norm. I think if you're going through and you're not perceiving any resistance, you're probably not digging deep enough. And I think, as Dan mentioned, showing up into that space with curiosity is really important. And just like we kind of use our A3 thinking or kind of that structured problem solving, we can also approach that resistance in a similar way of trying to discover what root causes are at the heart of that resistance, whether it's an individual's fear or concern or even misunderstanding of what the change is about. There's just so much that goes into how people perceive the change that's happening around them. I also mentioned just in my intro that culture piece, I think, plays a big role in how resistance shows up in the space. I've had the pleasure of working at an organization that really has that change management built into its culture. And when you're not in that space and you're trying to manage change when that's really not part of the culture, there's a lot of other kind of political and other barriers that might show up that can be surprising. So again, just remind ourselves that change is also a process. So as we're thinking about those strategic goals or whatever that project level change might be, as I said, just thinking about how can we incorporate that change management process alongside our implementation plans to make sure that individuals are supported. We cannot have organizational level change without those collective individual changes. So that people side is really important.
Thank you. That's terrific. MJ, your experience with change resistance in Arizona.
Yes, boy, it's so interesting. I think what both Leah and Dan said are absolutely true. You've heard the "what's in it for me" statement, right? And while you need to have that be true for both your executive leaders and your middle managers, you especially need it to be true for your frontline employees. And so I love a top-down, bottom-up kind of approach, where if you have the manpower to be able to really go out and be that listening ear for your frontline and your middle managers, so that they can start to see and begin to employ, when we're talking about employing continuous improvement, begin to employ the tools on things that really matter to them, that really make a difference, and help them see how, for example, if we've been asking for a new backhoe for 3 years and no one will ever give us a new backhoe and that's our problem, helping them see, okay, would you like a new way to ask for that backhoe? Right? What is the root cause of why you need it? And then to have them figure that out themselves and put that forward and get the backhoe, well, that unit will forever be on your side and they will be your biggest supporters. And you should probably plan on taking them with you when you go visit the other units, right? So if you can really flip like that, but if you don't have it coming from the executive level in a really strong way, you can do that all day long at every unit in your organization, and it probably won't make a huge difference. You have to have the executive level as well. And I can't stress enough how important it is to layer change management over any implementation that you're doing. Particularly when you're talking about a software implementation, this can be incredibly difficult because of the way software projects are developed and employed. You need to almost have a change manager who understands Agile or whatever methodology they're using and can do that same thing that you did with the maintenance unit with the IT project manager, right? And help that person see why change management is important, which is much harder than the backhoe guys, unfortunately, because they're going to move along at a pace that does not care about your change management program. It can't really. It's not that they don't care. It really can't. So if you don't have that executive leader to kind of bridge that gap, or a high-level change manager to bridge that gap, mostly software conversion projects come with a consultant who has their own change management program, and they can be very good. But how does that blend into the current culture that you have at your organization? And what happens when that goes away? Because the minute they hit the go live button, those people all disappear. So whatever shiny change management thing you've been using is going to get turned off, usually, right? Or for a price, of course, you can keep it on, right? But so thinking about how those really quite well-developed tools are going to mesh with whatever you're going to do when it goes away, because as we know, go live is not the end of the change. But it usually is the end of your consulting contract. So thinking about those things in terms of resistance, I think are really important. I didn't time myself. I could keep talking, but is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's great. Thanks, MJ. Well, let's go to number 2, because this is, you might call, the PSCP crowd pleaser from our original survey out to the community. And it relates to how did change communication result in the lack of clarity or unintended results? So a bit of the guy who found, or the person that found the hole in the boat and yelled, this is a problem. So from our earlier slides. So we'll start with Dan and see if he has some experiences on maybe how lack of clarity may have resulted in things that were unexpected. So thank you.
Look, I think this comes from the fact that while technology is a wonderful thing, the use of technology, whether that be email or webinar or PowerPoint or even some of the later technologies, Power BI, etc., and visualization really shouldn't be used as the only means and method of communication. And I'm pretty much talking to the converted here, but that real opportunity when I see a slide deck go out and it hasn't had the opportunity to go through local management, at least, or a transition lead, change champion, that type of thing, a network. And there are those sometimes minor nuances and sometimes quite stark differences between places. So I work in a state of Queensland. It's the most distributed state in Australia in terms of population. So I was just doing some quick calculations. I think the distance between the 2 largest major centres is around 1,200 miles. So that's about a 2.5-hour flight or a couple of days drive. And, there's centres that could be 2 or 3 million people up down to, 10 or 12,000. And so people are going to have very different challenges. In regional towns where I come from previously, you were sometimes one person with 15 hats. And where I am now in more the head office context, you're having to look more of a helicopter across a number of centres. So each person, if you look at the hole in the boat theories, each person's looking at that hole in the boat from a different angle. Some people aren't even in the boat, they're on the shore. Some people are swimming, some people are in a helicopter, and some people are fishing off the edge. So it's really just about perspective, I feel.
Thanks, Dan. That's great. Leah, how about things from your perspective on terms of communications and lack of clarity and what happened?
Yeah, I'll just kind of, as a prelude, just say that whenever possible, if you can include others in deciding on what changes will be coming, that would be definitely ideal if you have a process for using Hoshin planning or other strategic planning efforts that can get folks involved in what some of those higher level changes will be. that can always help. And again, at the project level too, that's best practice with any of our continuous improvement methods of pulling in those frontline staff to help think about, what would you do differently? So I'd say that as a prelude to the communication, because you'll have better buy-in and easier communication if folks have been part of those change decisions all along. I think in one of my first change management classes in my management program, I learned the definition of the difference between a sender and a receiver. And it's so basic, but I think it's really important to really think about what those roles are, that we have folks who are the ones that are sending the communications about the changes and those who are receiving it. And we really need to remember that what the receiver hears is not the same as what the sender often thinks they're communicating. So there has to be a loop back where management can really have a process of listening to make sure that the employees actually understand what is being said to them. Again, it's a very simple concept, but there's a huge gap in what people pick up on in those communications. And again, just sending an email blast to say, hey, this change is coming is not enough. There need to be other face-to-face and other communications so that you can have that feedback of, is the employee hearing what I'm saying? There's a lot of just misinformation that I think gets spread pretty rapidly if that loop of making sure the understanding is clear. And I'll even use my current role as an example that, I was recruited and hired into this position to build a continuous improvement program. You would think that everyone at the executive level here was clear on kind of what the objectives were and what does continuous improvement mean and what do we want in this program. And quickly coming in, it was clear that, wow, it seems like every person has a different understanding of what continuous improvement means, what the intentions are of the work ahead. And I think, again, whether it's some of those strategic priorities that leaders are trying to communicate as coming changes or project level, again, it's not only being clear in the messaging, it's coming back and making sure that that understanding is there, because people can really misinterpret and go a lot of different directions with what they think they've heard. So I'll leave it at that for now.
That's terrific. Thank you. MJ, we'll ask you the question number 2 on if change communication or lack of clarity had any unintended results in some of your efforts and projects.
Absolutely. I have great insight on that. When I'm thinking about the software conversion project, we had a great and well-developed change management plan that albeit started a little bit later than maybe one would have had as the ideal timeline. We jumped right in. It was pre-COVID. So we did lots of in-person, come and meet the team and see a preview, and lots of communicating and giving people an opportunity to have a voice about what their concerns were. And, and this was a little uncomfortable for some of the management. That was not part of the culture of this organization in the past, but I insisted on it. And as the brand new change manager, it was pretty easy for me to do that. However, hearing and getting all of that wonderful feedback means you have to do something with it. The biggest misconception about communication is that it happened, it occurred. I sent the email. They should all know. And that's kind of a separate issue, but it's really a good one to remember. So if you are going to involve your front line and ask them what their concerns are, you better be ready to address those concerns. And that's actually why I said make a good relationship with your project manager as a change manager or as an engagement person. Because if what the employees want the very most is an opportunity to get hands-on in the system and start to learn how they're going to do their jobs, if that's not possible until the nth hour, right? You really need to be able to figure out the why around that and help people understand. We know that people, if you learn how to do something 3 months ago and you don't have an opportunity to practice it, you will forget how to do it, right? So giving you access to something to practice, if it's going to change, or if you're not going to have that access in between times is really kind of pointless, right? So they said, oh, yes, here's access to practice. And people started practicing and asking questions and doing things. And then we, found out that, well, that's not really what it's going to be like. So why are we, okay. So that communication between your project team and your change management folks is incredibly important. So then they felt like they hadn't been heard because we gave them what they didn't want or whatever, right? So that was definitely a challenge that I've experienced. And I think that, again, that, when we start with communication and asking your executives to be courageous enough to have some of those one-on-one conversations themselves versus it all being filtered up, right? Getting your executives, your high-level management out into the field, into where the real work occurs, so they can hear some of those challenges and expectations themselves can be incredibly important with communication.
Thanks, MJ. That's terrific. We're in the third question, and the feedback and the responses has been just amazing. I wish we had another hour, but we don't. So we got about, I don't know, maybe around 15 minutes. So we'll go into number 3, and this is a panelist choice style question, which is your choice of a past effort that resulted in a change challenge. This may be your favorite, and that could be a new technology or new data or new business process. So we'll start with Dan, see what he has in his memory banks. Thank you.
Yep. This one does come from quite a while ago, probably one of my first roles. So I was a junior in a team in an engineering role for a council, what you might call a municipality or a region on water and sewage. One of the important things I think about the public sector is obviously you're engaging with the public. This was a very rural town, and there was issues with the water supply, I think some pipe corrosion or whatever the case may have been in this small town. So there was a need to quite openly to shut the water supply down for a period of time while that was rectified, and there was a range of mitigation measures that were put in place for that. And it was interesting actually to go to that community meeting, and I was there to observe and take notes, all those things at the time, and just really experience that emotion from the front of the room from people in the public who you're about to turn off a service. People are used to seeing in public services, they're used to not really having to think about them. You turn the light switch on, you turn the tap on, you drive down the road, you go and get healthcare or whatever the case may be. And it was really interesting, and I think at the time, possibly not well considered. Now that I think about it, this is probably going back 17, 18 years now. And it's really, really stuck with me as to, people are there with their children, and there was a daycare service, and there was, I think there was a local sawmill that required water to work and all those sorts of things. And it was kind of, things did change as a result of the meeting because people put political pressure on at the time, as one would expect that would happen. But it's really stuck with me, again, around that human piece as that challenge to try to make sure that even bad news, which can be hard and it's quite emotive, let's say as a manager of staff, is to say, well, not all change is wonderful and not all transitions are wonderful. And there are sometimes going to be those things where there's going to be a little bit of pain. I think in the health side of removing smoking, I think all Queensland, most Queensland offices now and pubs and clubs, lots of stuff, smoking was removed. And of course, I had a little bit of involvement in that. And of course, people weren't happy with that, even from a messaging perspective, etc. So I think it's just really, for me, it's that transparency and even a level of optimism, but realism around change and what people are there and why and how it may affect them. I think people will A, appreciate that, and B, they won't fill blank space with rumour. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Leah, so do you have a favorite, your choice of a past change challenge?
Yeah, so many good examples. The one I'm going to share today, I think, might feel relevant to some. Back when I worked at Denver Public Health, I was part of a big change in the physical office space. So there was a building that the Denver Public Health folks had been in for decades, and they were moving into a new building, one floor of a new building that was all open office concept. So folks were moving from their well-established office spaces into an open office concept. I know that in the current state, many organizations are trying to rethink, what the workplace looks like, who's coming and going, and this is still something that folks are dealing with. But as you can imagine, this change had a lot of different implications. We did have the benefit, again, of being part of an organization where they were well trained on continuous improvement practices, and there were even some folks who were certified in ProSci who helped with that change. If you haven't heard of ProSci, I'm sure many of you have, but they use the ADKAR model for change, of helping raise awareness of the need for change, tapping into the desire for folks to participate in that change, build knowledge around the change, give them the skills and ability to be successful in the change, and then reinforcement as you're making those changes. But a few things that I wanted to highlight about this is, as MJ was saying, make sure that if you're getting feedback from staff about what their concerns are, be ready to address those. These communications were done not only by email, but flip charts were put up in hallways for folks to put ideas and concerns. And this process went on for probably a year leading up to the move itself. Some of the biggest resistance I think that was anticipated were from some of those folks who were nearing retirement age. They had, libraries of things in their offices and just so much history that resistance was really palpable. One of the strategies they actually implemented before the move was an early retirement incentive. So I want to say it was like $10,000 incentive if folks retired early. And that incentive worked for a number of folks who I think would have been really hard resistors to that new workplace environment. And that was a way for them to kind of opt out of this change that would have been really challenging for them. And it was done in a way that was respectful to them and kind of helped them just, ease into their future retirement. There were also some really fun ways that staff were engaged. We led a big 5S project that was super fun. There were lots of prizes for just kind of the strangest things that people found in their offices. Everyone was essentially told that they had 2 paper boxes that they could move into the new building, and everything else they had to take home or get rid of. So a lot of fun was built into that pre-move change management space of making sure that we really helped make that process fun. There was a lot of concern about it's going to be really noisy in this open office environment, so everyone got noise canceling headphones. Once we actually moved into the new space, I think one of the big things that made a huge difference from my point of view was that the director and assistant director were also in the open office concept. They were not in offices. They were actually adjusting to the change, and their ability to come into that space and model those new behaviors and etiquette and say, we're here learning this culture just along with you, said 100. I mean, it just went so above and beyond to have them showing up in their cube next to everyone else doing the things. It actually was quieter than a library when people moved in and they had to start, thinking about how do we actually get folks to engage in the space and not be so afraid to talk. So some of the things they anticipated were different than the actual outcomes. So they continued that feedback loop of what's working and how can we make adjustments. And really that workforce and workplace culture became quite enjoyable to everyone, even those executives who had to get rid of their lovely corner offices. So I thought that was a fun example to share. There were lots of challenges, lots of creative countermeasures. And, I think folks are still thinking about, how do we foster those workplace cultures now?
Thanks, Leah. Thanks for your share on our third question. And MJ, I'm gonna put a 4 or 5 minute clock, so we have, hopefully that won't be too much of a constraint, but a favorite past effort or change challenge for you, whether it was technology, data, or business process. Thank you.
You're welcome. I know lots of folks on this call are continuous improvement people, so I'll try to use a continuous improvement since I've talked about technology already. And at the state, we tend to see a lot of what we would call the weebies, right? We've been here before you got here, and we'll be here after you're gone. And oh, we've been through this management system, and we've been through it's whatever flavor Kool-Aid of the month, right? Luckily, this time we got 8 years to really ingrain continuous improvement into the culture of our agencies. And so now that we're facing a change with that, I'm talking about what elements of our management system do we want to change, and getting real feedback from folks about which of the elements they struggle with the most. We're in a space now of holding pattern where we are saying it's business as usual. Use the tools that are useful for you, that you've found great success in. And if you aren't having great success using that tool, then it's okay. No one's going to require you to use it. However, we don't yet have really strong direction about what is specifically changing. And so we have, depending on how ingrained continuous improvement was in the agency, we have, some concerns about backsliding and things of that nature, and people have a lot of questions and we don't have a lot of answers yet. So as I said, communication is the most important part of change. Well, we don't yet know what to communicate, so we're having to continuously tell people business as usual. You're doing great. Keep measuring the same things. Yes, we understand your strategic plan is due in 3 days. Yes, that might change too, and that's okay. Right? Letting it be okay for us to continue doing the great work we've always been doing. And then when it is time that we receive new direction, even if it's in December and we're used to getting it in June, that's okay. We can change, we can adjust, and we will work with you. So letting people understand that, yes, it looks different right now. No, we don't have all the details. That transparency, I think, is key. Are we doing a fantastic job of that? I don't know, it's hard. That's what we're trying to do, right? Is let that uncertainty be okay. And in state government, that is not a very comfortable place for most people to live. So I think that's the current challenge that we're facing in our change management efforts and our continuous improvement efforts in the state. But I am unconcerned that we will not have this great opportunity to enhance and improve our continuous improvement efforts and help all the agencies move forward.
That is terrific. I'm just thrilled. We've got so many good responses. So Dan, MJ, Leah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences on the questions. And so thank you, Michelle. We've been having a little side text on timing. And so I think what we'll do is we'll take maybe 5 or 6 minutes to field a few questions. If Leah, Dan, and if you're okay, if maybe I can cherry pick a few of these and then just reach out to you and ask you what you think, if that sounds fair. If we do not get to all the questions in the chat, I think if our panelists are amenable, we can gather up the remainders and email them out and get their points of view. And then we can get that sent out to our community in the next newsletter. So if that sounds like a fair way to do it, let's go from the top. And this one is from Jen Barna. And Jen notes that people's habits can be a part of resistance. And there's a personal desire for change while being trapped in habits. So, and then you can potentially backslide into what's comfortable. So maybe some thoughts or techniques or tactics that you might employ to resolve that in terms of, oh, I'd like to change, but I've got some habits that I'm trapped in. So we'll pick on Lee first and see what she thinks on that question.
I'm sorry, did you say me first?
Yes, that would be great.
Sorry, it broke up for a second. Yeah, I think that behavior change is hard for all of us. One thing that comes to mind is making sure that the way that we teach folks the new way, and remember that, you know, as we're kind of piloting those new processes or those new changes, that we really want to understand and make the right thing easy for people to do. So I like to use visual management and other tools to help people remember and to stay focused on what the new process needs to be. And again, as you're operationalizing those changes, you've observed that this change is something that you want to make the norm. Just to remember to build your standard work, to come back to those processes, have a way in your daily management system to be making sure that you're staying aligned with that new change. And if possible, eliminate the old way. You know, if there's any way that you can make that old way of doing things inaccessible, it will be easier. But I like to use visual management and other things to help people and just kind of incentivize them for, hey, you're doing a good job, and we need to keep this on track in our daily management system too.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks. That's awesome. And thank you for letting me, for all the panelists, to hit you with a real random question that just came in live. So I really appreciate that. I wouldn't be able to respond well at all. So I'm glad you all are smart to do that. So I think we have one for, I think, MJ, this would be something that you would like to speak to from Matthew Foster regarding challenges in implementing change when you encourage continuous improvement or lean, and maybe some ways that you were able to deal with that, resistant or to changing to a continuous improvement mindset. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's sort of, I saw that question earlier, and that's sort of why I shifted my answer, my previous question, but it's 100% true that the more we can give concrete examples and encourage people to see how the tools can work for them, and give them those opportunities, right? So sending people to training is fantastic. I am a trainer and I love training, mostly because I love executing training. As a learner, not so much, right? The more hands-on I can be, the better I am going to buy in or understand or be able to implement. So the more hands-on opportunities and exercises you can do versus come to this training class and listen to me talk. I think one of the most successful pieces of implementation that we did at the Department of Transportation was kind of a case study style training for 8-step problem solving. So rather than just saying, here are the 8 steps and here's how you would apply them, and thank you very much, I'll check your training card, have a nice day. It was, read this case study, and in your small group, we're going to actually do 8-step problem solving. We're going to actually do it, and no notes, no cheats. You have the facilitator to help you, but you're going to actually struggle through it, and it's going to be hard. People don't want to put their managers who are already in, stressed and overworked and, all of the things through anything hard. And when we said we really want to do this case study model, there was concern at the executive level that it was too hard. Of course, we had put them through it already, right? And that's why, because they thought it was hard. But it was so incredibly successful to help these folks really understand and have that opportunity, right? To say like, okay, if I could solve that problem, I can solve my own problem too. Or I'm willing to at least try applying 8-step. Then when we got down to front line, we had some units that were, struggling. We had tried to simplify examples, and nothing was really working in order to get people to understand that you can use this on any size problem. It does not have to be, an executive level problem. You can use it, just think through the 8 steps in your head, right? And so I said, hey, why don't we just use the case study? These people are smart. It worked with the management. Let's just use the case study. So we did that in a few units that were really struggling to understand, why would I use this methodology to try to solve my problems. And it worked like a charm. And was it hard? Yes, but sometimes hard things pay off, right? We didn't do it everywhere, right? Because it's a full day class essentially to get through 8 steps and, really work through it. But if you have resistors, giving them the opportunity to get as hands-on as possible, to see how they can make this their own and use it for their own challenges is the most important thing that you can do.
Thanks, MJ. I really appreciate it. Well, I think we've got about 4 minutes left. What we'll do is we'll gather some of these questions and get it out to our panelists. So just a sincere appreciation, Daniel, Leah, MJ, for joining us today. Daniel, I hope you will get a good days and nights rest there in Australia, being in wee hours of the morning. And thank you, learned so much from you, and we'll turn it over to Michelle.
Thank you, panel. And Dan, yeah, go back to bed. I cannot believe you got up in the middle of the night for us, but we all very much appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. MJ, Leah, you guys were awesome. Dan, you're great. I so cannot get over how great you guys were. We will collect the rest of the questions. We'll send it to our panel to and get their answers back, and we'll get that out in the newsletter or in some way. We'll make sure that everybody gets the answers to the rest of those questions today. Gosh, great involvement. Thank you. Corey posted the link to the survey. If please fill that out. And if that's the way to get the PDU, if you need it. But we want to hear back from you anyways. So please fill it out if you can. If you have not visited the website, today's webinar will be posted on the website very, very soon, probably today sometime. Go there and you can check out previous webinars. Lots of good stuff. In fact, I was pulling information out of one of the videos from like 2 years ago, just this last week for something, which was really cool. So lots of information there. Make sure to go check it out. Join our LinkedIn group if you haven't yet. You'll be kept in the loop on all kinds of things. We like to have discussions. We've had some good discussions this last month on there. So make sure to join the LinkedIn group and our YouTube channel. So that's where all our videos are posted, and that's how we present them on the website. But visit the YouTube channel. You can see all of our videos from there as well. And until next time, and we have like 2 minutes to spare. So I'll let you have 2 minutes of your day back, and enjoy your summer. And we will see you guys in August. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful day.